Reuben Cantu was only 17 years old when he was convicted of capital murder and later executed for that crime. Years later, new evidence arose which proved that Cantu was in fact innocent, but of course it was too late for him. He tragically lost his life due to the failures of our criminal justice system. He's just one example of the many reasons why we should not have the death penalty in the United States. Today I am here to persuade you that the death penalty is unconstitutional and should be abolished. The National Academy of Sciences reports that at least 4.1% of defendants sentenced to death in the United States are in fact innocent. First, I will go over the problems occurring because we have the death penalty. Second, I'll discuss why this issue has persisted. And third, I'll offer alternative solutions which can be implemented in place of the death penalty. Let's start by going over the problems. Contrary to popular belief, the death penalty does not deter crime, and it disproportionately affects people of color. First, let's talk about the crime issue. The American Civil Liberties Union published in 2021 that there is no evidence that shows that the death penalty deters crime. In states that do have the death penalty, there is no difference in their crime rates compared to states which do not have these laws. As we can see, capital punishment does little to better a society and does not stop people from committing crimes. Now, let's talk about the issue of vulnerable populations being disproportionately affected by the death penalty. In an article published by the Associated Press in 2020, it stated that 52% of death row inmates were Black, when approximately 60% of the United States population is white. Additionally, killers of white people were more likely to face the death penalty compared to killers of Black people. This shows that there is an overrepresentation of minority groups on death row, and this is a major problem of our criminal justice system. These are people's lives in jeopardy, and the shortcomings of our criminal justice system should not be a decision of life or death for them. So, to reiterate, there is little to no evidence which supports that the death penalty does anything to lower crime rates, and we are seeing a disproportionate effect on minority members and vulnerable populations. Now, let's discuss the causes. The Death Penalty Information Center published that Britain influenced America's use of the death penalty more than any other country. The antiquated idea of the death penalty came from European settlers, and the United States should no longer be using these outdated ideals. The United States has rapidly evolved as a nation since the first settlers arrived. Now let's talk about another cause. The modern day death penalty, as one would call it, actually came about during the 1970s. The St. Louis University Law Journal published in 2018 that in 1972, the Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional, but in 1976 reinstated it, but said that it should only be used with a narrow focus. We are already seeing that the Supreme Court found the death penalty to be unconstitutional over 50 years ago, but somehow backtracked and added an amended version. Clearly, this new version is not working out any better than the old one. The death penalty has been able to persist in the United States due to the ideals from the early settlers, which are antiquated and outdated, and because the Supreme Court tried to come up with a modernized version, which is not much different from the original. Now that we've discussed the causes, let's go over some of the solutions we could implement after we abolish the death penalty. The Wisconsin Law Review published in 2019 that the death penalty embodies a vengeful, punitive nature that infects the entire criminal justice system. One solution which can be implemented in place of the death penalty is a focus on rehabilitation instead of revenge. The death penalty serves no purpose other than to sentence unlucky people to death. In fact, even the worst murderers are often not even sentenced to death. We as a nation should focus on rehabilitatory programs instead of vengeful ideals. Now let's talk about another solution. An alternative for the death penalty can be life without parole. This method is less expensive than death row and leaves room if there is new evidence discovered that those in prison may be able to change their sentence. The Los Angeles Times published in a 2021 article that the Supreme Court ruled in 2005 to outlaw the death penalty for murderers under 18. As we can see, there's already been change happening regarding the death penalty, and lawmakers do not feel like this is an appropriate punishment, especially for those under 18 and not fully developed. We can adopt these ideals for everyone across the board if we all agree that the death penalty is unconstitutional. The judicial system is not immune to human error, and therefore we should not be making life or death decisions for anyone. So today I persuaded you to abolish the death penalty in the United States. I did this first by going over the problems of the death penalty, second, the causes, and third, the solutions we can enact in place of the death penalty. We have seen too many innocent people sentenced to death in the United States, and we will continue to see this problem occurring unless we do something to change it in the future.